I'ma tell somebody get well.
Hi, my name is Margie DiMonte, and welcome to Fit as a Fiddle today. Today I have a guest with me. His name is Zach Orme. You might actually recognize him. He was in my last segment. He was demonstrating he was demonstrating resistance flexibility with Bob Cooley. So this is Zach. How are you today, Zach?
Doing well, thanks. How are you doing, Margie?
Good, thank you. Great to have you here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So today we're going to do a segment on depression. And I know that there are varying viewpoints about depression, and I'm going to take it from the medical standpoint, just because my training for over 30 years has been in the medical model, but I do take on very alternative approaches, and that's why I'm having you here, because I feel that you're a very good example of someone who has done alternative approaches. But before we get on that, actually I wanted to explain what depression is, and this, no matter what approach you're taking, this would be the same for anyone. So basically, depression is characterized by weeks of symptoms such as low or sad mood, diminished interest in activities that used to be pleasurable, weight gain or loss, fatigue, inappropriate guilt, difficulty concentrating, recurrent thoughts of death. Let me see. And I just want to go into some of the statistics because they're actually pretty scary when you really think about it. I mean, I really think of depression as sort of like a silent killer because people just don't know that, people themselves don't know that they have depression. And a lot of times their friends or families don't even know it. They'll say, oh, she's just moody today, or she's been moody for quite a while, or yeah, he's been sad for a long time. But they don't realize that maybe that is depression, that it could be something that you really want to look into. So I would always advise anyone who's feeling that they have depression, to seek the help of a medical professional. You might want to get a thyroid testing, something like that, to test out your thyroid. Would you agree with that, Zach?
For sure, yeah. Hypoactive thyroid can definitely contribute, from what I hear, from my understanding.
Okay. Well, good. So I just want to go over some of the statistics. They say an estimated 1 in 6 in the United States, or approximately 17 million Americans, have depression each year. Pretty scary when you think about it. They say nearly 40,000 Americans take their own lives each year due to depression. And people with depression tend to, now this again is a medical model, and then I'd like you to go into what your viewpoint about depression is. But basically, I have always been taught that depression, that people who have depression, that they have a high level of an enzyme, and it's called monooxidase, more familiarly known as MAOs. And
right, monoamine oxidase.
Yeah, thank you. So this enzyme, it breaks down the monoamines, which are the neurotransmitters in your brain, which are basically dopamine and serotonin, your feel-good enzymes in your brain.
Right.
You feel them when you exercise, when you're running, right? I mean, that's how it makes people feel good.
Right.
When you're in love, you eat chocolate, same thing is happening.
Right.
Those levels are increasing. But people with depression have low levels of the feel-good enzymes in their brain, the neurotransmitters. So basically, that's what I know of depression. And actually, you have a different viewpoint about how you get depressed, or can you go into that?
Yeah, so I don't know that they're mutually exclusive. I think, more just sort of different viewpoints, different lenses, looking at the same symptom. But definitely. So according to, like you were talking about with Bob Cooley's resistance, flexibility, and strength training, in terms of in the way that it relates to the meridians, in Bob's system, depression is related to the small intestine meridian, which corresponds with the flow of cerebral spinal fluid up and down the spine, which is the fluid that encompasses the brain, and if that stagnates, that causes a lot of, one of the symptoms is depression. So doing, like we show, or we'll be showing later, doing the small intestine stretches can help alleviate those symptoms and get the flow of cerebral spinal fluid moving more freely.
Yeah. I do see a link. I mean, we're both talking about the brain, because I really do believe that it does stem from the brain, that something, somehow, when it's not connecting the way it should be connecting,
Right.
whether it's the lymphatic flow or, or whether it's the neurotransmitters, whatever, there's something happening that's triggered from the brain. So we need to address that. And before we go on, I wish that we could have played this song. It's CeeLo Green's recorded a song called Robin Williams. And he's talking about depression here. And we all know what happened to Robin Williams, that he committed suicide. And CeeLo Green is mentioning all these different artists who have committed suicide. And a lot of us didn't realize that these people were suffering from depression. So I just want to take excerpts from the lyrics, because we can't play the song, unfortunately, because it's copyrighted. So he begins by saying, "Oh, what a night, oh, what a night, tears in my eyes, staring at the sky in disbelief. I got a voice in my head, that's what it said, all you really need is some comic relief." And then he goes on further in the song that says, "We don't know what the next man's going through. Wish I could say it in a plainer way. I said, we don't know. Life reminds me of Robin Williams. We've got to laugh the pain away." I think it's very poignant and actually really rather sad that we're walking around not knowing the next person beside us might be suffering from depression. So it really is a silent type of disease that I think that's why I feel like we both wanted to address this issue today, because there are just so many people who do have depression.
Right. And it doesn't need to be a silent situation.
Agreed. So we can actually, I'd like to go into some of the foods that are very helpful in helping with depression. Again, if you need to seek medical advice, please do so. But I'm also trying to help, with just alternative approaches, just to help you if you have depression. So I've got a lot of these foods from a book called How Not to Die, and his name is Dr. Michael Greger. And he's basically stating that fruits and veggies may present a non-invasive, natural, inexpensive therapeutic means to support a healthy brain. So he also is talking about the brain. This is all about brain food that we're going to be talking about, and really how to help you with depression.
Right, and the gut, the correlation between the brain and the gut, because the brain and the digestive system actually start in the embryo as the same component, and then they divide. And so that's like the people talk about their gut feelings. It's often dropped out when we talk about the brain being the intelligence center, but it's actually just as important, just as vital, and actually most of the neurotransmitters are produced in the gut. So that synergy between the gut and the brain.
Exactly.
And that's where the diet really comes into play.
Yes, I totally agree. Thank you for bringing that up, because, that's so important to know that, too. Yeah. Thank you. So, so let's look, like fruits and vegetables, very high levels of vitamin C. And vitamin C is a cofactor in the production of dopamine, So here we go. So we're starting to link a lot of these issues together. So there's many plant foods: apples, berries, grapes, onions, green tea. They all contain phytonutrients that they're like sort of natural they naturally inhibit MAOs, as well as spices like cloves, oregano, cinnamon, nutmeg, seeds, sesame seeds, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds. Can you think of any other type of?
Certainly flax and
There you
anything
go.
containing high levels of omegas.
Right.
Fish.
Fish.
The omegas are really beneficial for the brain and, as well as the digestive system.
That's true. I think actually you mentioned castor oil. Did you say castor oil at one point? Was it castor oil or something like that?
I know it's beneficial for detoxification. I'm not that familiar with it, but I know people use it externally to dry out toxins.
Oh, okay. That's good. I mean, toxins also can cause, again, it's affecting the gut. If you have
Everything.
toxins, yeah,
Right.
in there. Rosemary, they say, is the best antidepressant food. Beets, it fuels the mitochondria, which is, that's the energy rich molecules that it just fuels the cells.
ATP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about goji berries? Do you like goji berries?
Love goji
Yeah.
berries.
So goji berries, they have beta carotene, 21 minerals, 18 amino acids. They're glyconutrients to help cells communicate better. Here we go again with the brain. Cacao powder, it improves your memory, increases feelings of bliss, lowers heart disease, sheds fat. I didn't know that about cacao powder.
Stimulates the metabolism, I believe.
Great. And yeah, because it creates high energy and boost immunity. And they say that low levels of folate, vitamin B, also contributes to depression. So there are like beans and greens that are very high concentrated in vitamin B. Mm-hmm. Are there any type of like beans or greens that you particularly use? I know that this person here is just a high example of someone who eats very well and knows a lot about nutrition. I'm very grateful to know you, Zach. I mean, you've offered me so many good advice over this past year.
Likewise, Margie. Grateful to know you as well, and grateful to be here. One of the practices I really enjoy on a daily basis is super green smoothies. Typically, to start the day, it's a good way to ease your system into, getting the nutrients you need without putting a big load on the digestive system. Health Force Naturals produces some awesome super green products, Vitamineral Green being one of them. Spirulina and chlorella, two of the best vegan sources of protein, which are very similarly mimic, or very similar to our blood hemoglobin. So it's very easily assimilated and turns into energy pretty quickly and seamlessly. So those are two, and the greens are, chlorophyll is just good for everything in the body. So
great, thank you. And we can't forget water, right? I mean, water is
Staying
essential.
hydrated.
Yeah, it says actually the neurotransmitters in the brains are like buds. In that they will not bloom well without water. So it's really important to think about water too.
Right.
We do need, even though sometimes it can be difficult, but water seems to be one of the things that we really do need, to have.
Right. By the time you get thirsty, you're already dehydrated, so you're already in debt at that point.
And to be considered as volume for water, you can include organic veggie juices, herbal teas. That's also part of water. You don't just have to drink just water.
Right.
And how about, you know, we've probably covered a lot on food, but just like sleep, how important is sleep, you know?
Right.
Meditation.
Yeah. I mean, sleep, exercise, and diet are, the way I see it, like the three primary pillars. You know, any one of them, it's like the three-legged stool. If you drop one out long enough, like things are just going to tip. And sleep, diet, and exercise, you know. And then exercise also being a part of that, being specifically targeting certain meridians. If you know, if you're into that, if you believe in that, there are certain muscle groups that correspond with certain organs, and studies have shown that you can influence the health of those organs through strengthening and stretching those meridians, the muscle groups that correspond with those meridians.
Yeah,
And
definitely. And well, I mean, there are so many topics we want to touch on today. We're not going to be able to include everything in this segment, but I know in a short while we're going to take a break, and then you're going to demonstrate. Can you just go into a little bit of what you're going to demonstrate, and then we'll do one more thing, and then we can actually just go into that segment.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, speaking of the meridians, like I think I mentioned briefly before, the small intestine meridian, again, the correlation with the gut and the brain, is, in some belief systems anyway, the small intestine meridian corresponds directly with the balance between depression and creativity. And so people who are creative are just effectively transmuting depression into creativity. And so, and the small intestine meridian governs that, and the flow of cerebral spinal fluid, which is incredibly important in keeping that moving, keeping a healthy balance of, you know, minimizing stagnation in the cerebral spinal fluid, which we'll get into more in a bit.
And then actually, one more thing that could really cause depression could be if you're ill, if you have some sort of a disease, or if you've just not been feeling well for quite some time. Do you agree with that? I mean,
right. Lyme disease being a primary,
wow.
You know, it's often undiagnosed for long periods of time, or it's diagnosed as one of the symptoms of Lyme disease, fibromyalgia, depression, which are all symptoms of Lyme, which is at epidemic proportions nowadays, unfortunately. But
Very scary.
and with the mild winters, you know, the population of ticks is only increasing, and so that's definitely something to also look into.
I would actually love maybe our next segment to actually talk, just dedicate it just to Lyme disease, and you know, some approaches. How do you help yourself if you have Lyme disease? What is it that you can do?
Yeah, I think that's a great topic. It's certainly needed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, why don't we do that? Have the next segment be on Lyme disease.
Yeah, I think that'd be a
Okay.
great idea.
Great. All right, so we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to see you demonstrating some of your stretches to help with depression. Okay, so again, thank you very much for being here. I mean, you're a great resource for all of this information, and we'll be watching you shortly.
Awesome. Thanks, Margie.
Thank you.
Pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you, Zach.
Hi, my name is Zach, and I'm a trainer here at the Genius of Flexibility at 561 Boyle Street in Boston, Mass. And I'd like to show you a couple stretches you can do that help alleviating depression. So the first of which is the small intestine meridian, and then the balancing muscle group to that is the heart meridian. And so anytime you're doing a stretch for one muscle group, you want to do the balance to that because they work together. So small intestine, a good place to start for that is with your hands clasped in front of you for prayer arms. And so you're squeezing your elbows in towards one another while lifting them up towards the ceiling. And the closer you bring your elbows, the deeper the stretch is going to be. And then from there, the farther you bring them towards the ceiling, that's going to intensify the stretch even more for the muscles that run down through the small intestine meridian into the back side of the shoulder, the teres and the infraspinatus. So again, you're clasping your hands together in prayer position and squeezing your elbows together as you raise them towards the ceiling. And then when you find a good spot, you can just hold that stretch isometrically, and that's a really good one for the small intestine. And then the balance for that is the heart meridian, which runs down the front side of the arm. And a good way to do this is if you have a post or a door frame, you can clasp your hand into it and lunge. So starting with your arm short and slightly bent, you're pushing your hand into the wall and rotating out away from it to stretch the muscles down the front side of your arm. You can also rotate your thumb down and push with the back of your hand against the wall. And those are two variations for the heart meridian, which balances the small intestine. So those are two stretches you can do to help alleviate depression and help get the cerebral spinal fluid moving more freely, which helps bring about that uplifted feeling. And so those stretches are also really great for transmuting depression into creativity. And so that's the idea behind not trying to get rid of the depression, but trying to use that as the compost, as Bob Cooley would say, for the high traits which grow out of that. So best of luck to all of you.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed Zach and what he showed you on resistance flexibility and how to boost that mood. And guess what? We are going to do a smoothie today to really help you boost your energy level and make you feel great, okay? So let's start off with, this is NutriBullet, created by David Wolfe. And I want to, okay, so we're going to start off with, this is about 2 cups of greens. Okay, greens great for the, okay, this is all going to be brain food that we're using here. So we're going to just put in all the greens. Okay, and here we go with all different types of berries, strawberries, raspberries, blueberries. Very good for, again, everything is good for the brain here. All right, then we have 1 banana. Okay, so we're going to put that in there. Okay, and here, whoops, stick that in there. And avocado. Okay, we're just going to put that in again. Green food. Okay, now we're going to do with the seeds. These are sunflower seeds. Just stick them in there. Pumpkin seeds. These are all 1 tablespoon each of these. Goji berries, really great brain food. Again, everything is a tablespoon here. This is flaxseed, fantastic for the brain. Chia seeds, fantastic. And this is, we're going to use 1 tablespoon of cacao powder. We've talked about that also, really good. All right, so I'm using so many ingredients, I'm going to smash it down a little bit more here, okay, just to get it all in there. And then we're going to use water. Okay, and we're going to fill it, so, because we need all of this to really get mixed up. So we're just going to fill that up so it can be easier to mix. Okay, so then we're going to put the cover on. Make sure it's really tight when you're using this. And we will start blending. Blend away. Okay, that should do it. You know, I might even add a little bit more. Well, we don't have to, but I might add a little bit more water in here because I'm looking at it, it looks thick. So I'm going to put in that much more water and then just do some more blending. All right, you want it really tight. Alrighty, that looks like the consistency I wanted. You don't want it too thick because then, you know, it's more like you need a spoon to scoop it with. You want to be able to drink it. All right, I'm going to pour it in here. To your health, to your energy, bon appetit.
So when you're
Thank
gone
you for
out
watching
this
the show. See you next time.
I wish you safety in your travels, 'cause it's the journey, not the destination, that reveals the path. I'm trying to keep my...
So remember, next time you're walking down the street and you see someone who looks distraught, why not look at them and smile? You never know, but maybe you just might make their day.